So you think you want to be a nature conservation officer? It sounds awesome, right? Protecting the environment, working with nature.
It's definitely rewarding, but it's not always glamorous.
I bet. That's why we're doing this deep dive. You sent over some RoleCatcher guides, so let's use those to find out what this job really entails.
Sounds good.
Okay, so the first thing I'm seeing is that it's way more than just protecting nature.
Yeah, nature conservation officer.
visit.
It's a mouthful, right? It makes it sound a bit bureaucratic.
Yeah, a little, but this guide describes it as being on the front lines of conservation, balancing the needs of people and the planet.
Exactly. It's about finding ways for both to thrive, which, as you can imagine, gets complicated.
For sure. And speaking of complicated, the guide mentions managing species, habitats, and communities. That's a lot.
It is. It's a very dynamic role. One day you might be restoring a wetland.
Okay, hold on. Stop right there. That's what I'm talking about. You're restoring wetlands, then you're teaching kids about wildlife.
Oh, yeah. And then you could be off negotiating with landowners about sustainable practices, all in a week's work.
Wow, so you're like a park ranger, a teacher, and a diplomat all rolled into one.
That's a pretty accurate way to put it.
No wonder this RoleCatcher guide highlights active listening and speaking alongside environmental knowledge.
You have to communicate complex information clearly to a lot of different people. And sometimes those conversations can be, well, let's just say they require some diplomacy.
I bet. Especially with those conflicts between conservation goals and economic interests the guide mentions. Okay, so we've got the communication skills down, but hold on. The guide also mentions things like GIS software and drones. I thought we were talking about nature, not high-tech gadgets.
Oh yeah, technology is a huge GE part of the job these days. Drones can be used to monitor wildlife populations. GIS helps analyze environmental impact.
Wow, so you need to be comfortable with tech, too.
Absolutely. It's becoming increasingly important to be able to bridge the gap between traditional ecological knowledge and cutting-edge technology.
That's fascinating. So it's not just for people who love the great outdoors, huh?
Definitely not. It requires a diverse skill set, that's for sure.
Okay, you've convinced me. This job is way more than meets the eye. But how do you even become a nature conservation officer? What kind of background do you need?
Well, a strong educational foundation is definitely important.
So a good education in what exactly? Does everyone in this field have a degree in, like, environmental science or something?
Environmental science is definitely a common one. And the guide also mentions conservation biology, even forestry. They all kind of offer a slightly different perspective.
I can see that. But this guide also stresses hands-on experience. It even says it a few times, volunteering, internships.
Yeah, for sure. You wouldn't want someone managing a whole ecosystem if all you'd ever done was read about it, right?
True.
Getting that real-world experience is huge for both learning the practical stuff and showing you're really passionate.
Okay, I'm with you. So you've got the degree, you've volunteered, maybe even had an internship or two. What's next? What does actually moving up the ladder in this field look like?
Well, there are a lot of different paths you can take, which makes sense because, like we were saying, it's such a diverse field.
True, true. So what you start as like a junior officer, what does a junior officer even do?
It can vary, but a lot of it is assisting with research or doing field work, think data collection, that kind of thing. As you move up, maybe to a senior officer, that's where you might lead your own research projects or manage teams, develop conservation plans.
And some people even end up influencing national policy. At least that's what it says here. That's a pretty big jump from surveying wetlands.
It really is.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show you that this isn't a dead-end job at all. There's real opportunity to make a difference at all levels, from local ecosystems all the way up to tackling global challenges.
Okay, that's really cool. So let's say someone is listening to us right now and they're like, sign me up. What are some practical steps they can take? Get that education, obviously, but then what?
The networking is huge GE. Go to conferences, join professional organizations.
Meet people already doing the work.
Exactly, because you never know where that next opportunity might come from. And there are some cool things out there, like this guide mentions mentorship programs.
Mentorship.
Yeah, so you get paired up with someone more experienced and they kind of show you the ropes.
Oh, that's awesome. I wish I had that for, well, everything.
Right. It'd make life a lot easier.
Speaking of making life easier, we've got to talk about this AI-powered CV analysis tool that RoleCatcher mentions. Is it really possible for a computer program to help you get a job? It sounds too good to be true.
It does sound futuristic, but at its core, it's just data analysis. These tools scan job descriptions, figure out the keywords, and then look at your CV to see how well it matches up.
So it's like a digital assistant helping you tailor your application to make the biggest impact.
Exactly. And in a competitive job market like this one, every little bit helps.
That's true. But what about the actual interview? Can AI really tell you what they're going to ask?
Well, maybe not exactly what they'll ask, but it can get pretty close.
How does that even work?
They take all this data, we're talking tons of interview transcripts, company profiles, you name it, and they use it to find patterns. So they can anticipate the types of questions that are likely to come up based on the specific role and organization.
So it's not about memorizing answers. It's about understanding the themes, the kinds of things they're looking for, and then being prepared to talk about your experience in a way that resonates with them.
You got it. Which brings us right back to those communication skills we keep talking about.
Hmm.
Being able to articulate your passion, your experience, why you're the right fit that's goal.
It really is amazing what they can do with data these days. But, it's not just about algorithms and keywords, is it? There's a human element to all of this, too. This RoleCatcher guide is full of stories about nature conservation officers connecting with people, building relationships.
Absolutely. Remember how we were talking about them being bridge builders?
Yeah.
Connecting science and policy, yeah, but also connecting with individuals, communities.
Yeah.
It's all connected.
Yeah. Like that one story in here, the nature conservation officer working in Indonesia trying to protect orangutan habitat.
Oh, right, yeah, where deforestation was a huge problem.
Exactly. And I was so struck by how they didn't just come in with data and lectures. They really took the time to understand the community's needs.
Which is so important, because just telling people to stop cutting down trees, that doesn't really work if their livelihood depends on it.
Exactly. But in this case, they helped the community develop an ecotourism program instead, which is brilliant. They trained locals to be guides, built eco-lodges.
They turn a conflict into a win-win. Protecting the orangutans, A&D, creating new economic opportunities.
Exactly. And that's what's so inspiring about this field. It's not just about protecting nature for nature's sake, although that's obviously important. It's about recognizing that we're all connected, that our own survival depends on healthy ecosystems.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And the more we learn about climate change, biodiversity loss, it just makes that message even more urgent.
Definitely. So for anyone listening who wants to be a part of that, who wants a career that's about more than just a paycheck, this could be it.
Absolutely. It's not always easy, definitely long hours sometimes, but it's incredibly fulfilling.
And who knows, maybe you'll even end up influencing national policy like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah,
From protecting a local park to shaping environmental laws for the whole country, that's pretty incredible.
it is. And with the right skills, the dedication, and of course the passion.
You can make a real difference. Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
Yeah.
From the nitty-gritty of the job to the bigger picture of global impact.
Hopefully we've given our listeners a good sense of what it really takes to be a nature conservation officer. And for those who want to learn even more, is sure to check out the show notes for links to those awesome RoleCatcher resources we've been talking about. Until next time, keep exploring, and we'll catch you on our next deep dive.